Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Knowledge Central. And yeah, in this video, I thought let me just share a few things about Netherlands, which I kind of got surprised when I came here, and some culture shocks, of course. So yeah, before that, a very quick uh, and a brief introduction about me. So I came to Netherlands 4 years back to pursue my master's. And then after a couple of years, I started working as a data engineer. Especially, I did get an opportunity to do a couple of internships at research institutions like TNO and the Dutch Road Safety Institute, SWOF. And yeah, indeed, it was an awesome experience. Especially, I wanted to share a lot of things which I liked, and some things to keep in mind before coming here, are things which we should get used to. So yeah, let's move on and hope it's quite useful for especially people coming here for masters or coming here to work or settle down, etc. So yeah, first things first, you can see a lot of people talk about the weather, including the Dutch citizens who have been living here for like 20, 30 years or throughout their life, from their birth. So the best part is it has four different weathers, like once in every 3 months it changes. Of course, from May, June, or at least till September is pretty much sunny and around you know 20, 25 degrees, sometimes even more. It also goes to 30 degrees Celsius in a couple of weeks with a heat wave, etc. So let me keep that as a reference. And it's a beautiful part. I love going around different places, cycling, trekking, and also some beautiful places in and around Netherlands to go around in the summer. One of peaceful weathers, I would say, except the heat wave part. But at the same time, it also gets a little bit rainy, and sometimes it showers at random times, especially after September. In the period of October, November, it's kind of in between getting into winter and the rainy season, which is pretty tricky to handle because it starts showering suddenly, and then suddenly you might see the sun back. So it's pretty tricky weather, and then winter starts from December, January, February. Pretty cold, might go to 0, -1, -2, but doesn't snow that much. So you might not expect snow, but last year it snowed for a few days, and the year back again for a week max. But it also looks beautiful when it starts snowing, especially the initial days where the snow is pretty fresh, and then especially when you go to buildings which are more than 10 floors, you'll be able to see wonderful views. I wish I can share some pictures here, but yeah, probably I'll be updating it later. But the idea is the weather is pretty dynamic here. So every 3 months it changes, which is one of the facts which I really love about the weather. But at the same time, it's chilly, it rains at random times, and also winters are not that extreme like other countries like Canada and say, for example, Saudi Arabia. In summers, like they go to 48, 50 degrees. So the best part again is it's a mild weather which transitions every 4 months. But the part which we should be careful, or small heads up, is it rains and suddenly becomes chilly, and sun might come out a little time. So it's very uncertain, and then it kind of fluctuates. So that's the first thing which surprised me here, because I come from India, especially southernmost part of India, from a city called Chennai, where it's around usually 35 degrees or 35 degrees Celsius around that part. Even in winters, it might drop down to 28, 30 degrees. So in summer, it might go to 48 degrees. Sorry, 42, my bad. 42, 40, 42 degrees Celsius. So kind of I'm used to the heat, the summer, the sun. So coming from there to here, one of the kind of surprising moments at the start. Following that, something which, again, kind of a culture shock, was the relationships which we have, not only with your peers. Like, for example, I came here for masters, right, 4 years back, and then everybody, there was like very minimal age group difference. Like in my classroom, I could probably still remember there were people my age, of course, but there are people 30, 35, you know. There were students who had, 3 kids, and there were also students who are pretty young. So there's a very diverse variety of students of different age groups. And second of all, there was no hierarchy of, calling them with sir, or, using those kind of add-ons. So even we call professors by their names. In fact, sometimes with their first name, especially if you get close and, for doubt clarifying sessions, or if you have some one-on-one meetings, they expect you to call by their name, which was quite shocking for me initially. But now it became quite normal. In fact, even if I meet some people from my own country, I kind of call them by name instead of, adding some words. So here, the hierarchy of that relationships was pretty flat. Like, professors, if your friend's father, you can call everybody by their name, of course. And then, so I think that makes a lot of differences, because that kind of puts everybody already in a very equal, a state already. And then you kind of grow together. You learn from each other, kind of, again, share some hobbies together. So this kind of also already created a quick bond, calling someone by name. Whereas back in India, especially during my bachelor's, or not had a lot of work experience in India, but the couple of implant trainings and one internship which I had at IIT Madras, where I call professors by sir, or that's a sign of respect, which I'm totally fine with. Which I don't know. Again, it has been kind of infused in our culture that way. And even in bachelors, especially, we had seniors who were pretty elders, and we used to call them with an add-on, something similar to sir. So those things are quite missing, and that was a very major culture shock. It was very smooth relationship. It's quite friendly to be, in fact, speaking with professors or anybody, even in work, etc. So the relationship and the hierarchy, even with CEO, managers, any staff member, we have a very flat hierarchy here. So that's a surprise and a culture shock. So moving on, work-life balance, one of my kind of favorite topics of this video is, first of all, I loved, right? Period. Because here, especially coming from India, where I see a lot of workaholic environment, especially starting from your education career as well, where there is a competition involved back in India, or there's a very high tense state, especially during exams. All those were totally not there. Of course, it was challenging, especially I pursued my master's at TU Delft, which the curriculum itself was quite challenging, especially to complete within a time bomb. But again, Dutch students take their own time. Usually masters take 2 years, but most of the Dutch students I know do it in 3 years. Again, financially, maybe they might be much more stable. Of course, for internationals, it's pretty costly. But leaving that factor out, they kind of work in their own times. They usually start not too early, around 8:39, and then usually everybody closes the laptop at 5:30 max. In fact, I'm probably one of the last person to leave the office, and also I don't work till 6:37. Basically, I also finish my work at 5:30, and then I'll probably hit the gym, which I have in my workplace. So basically, that's the reason I kind of leave the office at the end. But either way, they are quite straightforward, and they exactly kind of figure out what to do, when to do, and then they really have this boundary of not overworking, right? If you have to do something, they do it till 5, and then they have something going on, they'll do it tomorrow. And especially, I think this is quite an important, again, learning from my side, because again, what's more important is your mental and physical health and well-being. And then a lot of companies focus really high on these aspects of mental and physical life. So that's what makes it much more balanced, right? So I usually tell my friends, or in fact, I usually try to do it myself. Like, especially something which everybody should try to work on yourself, especially our physical and mental health, as much as we, give importance to our work. Like, put the same, or in fact, even higher efforts working on your own life, mental and physical health, rather than we do in our actual jobs, which literally changed my whole perspective, keeps me improving. And again, kind of partially Dutch work life taught me about that, but also a few things I picked up by myself. So the work life balance, to keep it short, I love it. It's pretty beautiful. It's not a pretty workaholic culture. I don't see anybody working in my company, at least, working after 6. And of course, I know a few of my own friends, few of Indians who do a little bit extra work. But again, I feel that is kind of inbuilt in their nature to do a little more than what's asked for, which is, again, just some benefits. But again, try to focus on our mental, physical well being, right? So, without deviating the topic, again, something related to the previous topic I was mentioning about the workplace culture itself. Again, imagine everybody calling everybody with their names and, checking how was your day, and then going for drinks after work, and then sharing same hobbies. Like, I have some groups of people who does cycling, play board games, say for example, hit a shop for drinks after work. Uh, so there's a lot of small clubs we have within my workplace, and then this, I think I've heard this in a lot of workplaces, and they organize weekly drinks or Wednesday outings, and they have a very nice culture. And I really like that as well, because again, it's just not about work, it's about, the workplace, the well-being of people, which a lot of companies are focusing on, especially post-COVID, where we need to focus more on how we actually are, how is our mental state, how is our physical state, and especially if you're doing this hybrid work culture, work from home, you need to make sure that you just, as a manager or as an employee, you just make sure not only the work is done, but also make sure that you are in the right state of mind. Are you satisfied? Are you happy doing what you do, etc.? So the workplace culture itself ensures that, kind of embodying certain things. Again, I think most of the companies are learning and doing different things because of this post-COVID or post-corona situation, where people are working from home, coming back from office, sometimes very less people. So I think it's still evolving, but definitely removing all those pre and post COVID situations, I think workplace in itself is pretty rich of talent, and especially people enthusiastic, and especially most of the Dutch people do what they're really passionate about. Not a lot of people, again, go for masters. People start their own business, entrepreneurship. I know a few people who have a bakery, or I know another person who recently graduated masters, and uh, actually she is going for an exchange in US. So again, for them, it's like, you finish something and then work, and then save money. Something which is conventional is probably not here, at least in Dutch culture. You do what you're passionate about, and I know a lot of people who have joined the sports community and then, full on uh, trying to develop their skills. So there are different ways, again, to explore your passion. So I think to get the opportunity in itself is quite hard. So again, I love the workplace culture as well. Following that, it's an important fact, again, to realize that the number of cycles in Netherlands is actually more than the population itself. Like, the population is around 17.5 million, which is approximately, again, 170 lakhs, if I want to put it. Sorry, 17 lakhs, if I'm not wrong. My bad. But the number of cycles, on the contrary, is around 23 million. Right? So it's quite huge number, to be frank. So 17.5 million people, and then 23 million plus cycles. So which is quite amazing. I wouldn't say it's a culture shock, but something which is nice to know. And infrastructures are amazing, and they have dedicated lanes for cycles, which is painted red, and which is also bidirectional. And every road is probably accompanied by a cycling infrastructure. Even roundabout has a separate lane for a cyclist in the roundabout. So it's something which you should experience. And then most of the streets, you see a heavy rich of cyclists. And I, especially the initial weeks when I started my master's here, uh, it's quite funny to hear this, but I got stuck in a cyclist traffic jam. Like there'll be signal, and then there'll be like 40, 50 cyclists standing in the traffic signal, like, traffic jam. So basically, it's a very, very, very rich cycling country. And a lot of people sometimes have more than two bicycles. And myself, I have three bikes: one normal bike, mountain bike, and a speed bike, which I regularly use. I cycle every day. It's amazing. I mean, I'm not appreciating this because I love cycling, just partially a bias factor. But in itself, the country has a very rich cycling culture, and a lot of people from young kids, which is normal. But I see professors, I see old people above 60 cycling, and sometimes they do have e-bike. But the idea is they are very fit. They cycle a lot, and I think their life expectancy is also very high. Not sure, hope it gets better. But the idea is, again, cycling plays a key role. Not selling cycling here, but then again, this was actually a culture shock where I realized, wow, uh, this is something which is really new to me, especially coming from India, where we have more scooters, cars, and we use autos and Uber, Ola, etc. Where cycling is pretty pretty much less explored. But after coming here, I cycle everywhere. Like at least every day I cycle around 5 kilometers or more, and the weekends I do a little more. So it's a wonderful exercise. It's wonderful cardio, and I probably suggest anyone, at least who comes to Netherlands, to get a bike, or even though if you come for touring as a tourist, get a bike. Every station has cycles which is kept, which you can borrow for a day for around €3, around 200, 250 rupees, if I can convert. So it's a nice experience. The cycling infrastructure is amazing. And in fact, transport infrastructure itself is cool, but cycling infrastructure is quite mind-blowing, especially as an international who came here. And finally, of course, I cannot finish this video without talking about Dutch food. And again, I'm not going to appreciate or compare the pros and cons, but Dutch eat a lot of very bland food. Not a lot of masalas. To be frank, there's not a lot of spices. There's not a lot of chili powder and all this garam masala and all the cumin, cinnamon. There's no lot of spices, so their food is pretty bland. Like for example, bread, and then they have a couple of spread, and then they might put some processed meat on it, chicken, beef, pork. They eat everything, and most of them are non-vegetarians as well. Of course, there are a few people who are vegetarians and vegans for different reasons, but the idea is the food is pretty bland. So as an Indian coming from background who eats really spicy food, a lot of masalas, a lot of the flavors in it, I felt a little hard to adjust, especially the food which I get in university sometimes when I go for conferences or talks or presentations, and even in offices, companies sometimes, especially in my company's a couple of days, we have Dutch food, where it's usually sandwiches with some meat or veggies, and then butter and soup. That's it. Right? They're pretty bland. And I should definitely quote one of the lines which my own Dutch friend said it, because this is quite important to note, where he told he just eats to be alive and live. So imagine level of blandness. So everybody, like a lot of students, have a huge bag of bread in their bag. They just take and they eat whenever they're hungry. Usually they eat their lunch at around 12:30, and then dinner at 6, 7. They eat a really early dinner, and I'm not sure. They also sleep early, I guess. But the idea is they have early lunch compared to the Indian lunches, which is around 1:32, and then Indian dinners are also pretty late. So I'm just comparing to what I've been brought up and grown with. But again, I slowly started few things in Dutch. For example, I like few Dutch dessert, something stampart, frikandel is something nice to try. And starters are pretty amazing, especially the weather is cold and you have some bitter buttons. It's a mix of different meat. I don't want to explain, but the idea is their hot foods are nice, quite simple, plain, and of course it's filling. But I would expect a lot of flavors for which there are different cuisines. Of course, there are a lot of restaurants, places which have different ranges of menu. So I keep trying different foods here and there. But Dutch food in itself is a huge culture shock. But yeah, I got used to it, and then I cook my own food. So that's totally not even slightest of issues here. And which again slowly I got adopted, and of course a few things which I really like. So Dutch food might be a really huge culture shock for people coming here for the first time, for doing their masters or working. But of course, you need to remember that you have a lot of grocery shops, you have Asian grocery shops, you have Indian grocery shops, you can make your own food, and there are of course Indian restaurants, there is 7-Eleven, so nothing to worry about. Uh, Overall, it's a beautiful country, beautiful infrastructure, wonderful education institution, TU Delft, and we have TU Eindhoven, a lot of other universities, of course. This is not a context of this video, but the idea is they have wonderful education, infrastructure, facilities, work culture is nice, and weather it's amazing, especially at least 6 to 7 months of the year, a few months again with rain and a little bit winter. Of course, that's a nice experience again overall to put forward, because we get bored if it's same weather for 6 months, right? So with that, I think it's a wonderful experience. A lot of sightseeing places. It's a beautiful tourist place. Of course, a lot of tourist places there, but it's also a nice place to live, nice place to work. So I don't know, it's beautiful. So with that, I think let me just close this video. So have a wonderful day, and cheers. See you guys soon. Another video.